Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olson.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me.
Eric Olson and
Heidi Hollis.
How the heck are you guys doing?
very well, jumping up and down, super excited. Not excited about the winter storm rolling into Northeast Ohio as we speak. It is supposed to get real bad over the weekend.
I can't wait.
How many inches? How many inches of snow?
Oh, I don't know, 100 million.
Oh, that's it?
Chicago, they're saying about 6 or more because we might get that lake effect snow dumping on us.
Yeah,
We
It's
need
kinda-
that too.
Well, we got
Yeah.
30 below weather coming, so, you know.
Oh,
we
right
don't
after that. Yes, we're getting 15 below
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah, it's going to be nice and cold. You know, it's
Yeah.
all right, though.
You don't
It's
get
all right.
that nonsense.
No, you don't get any of that stuff in the good old state of Ohio. I understand that, but we could send some your way and you could experience at least one time.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that'd be so fun. Not.
There's quite no unique sensation than having your nostril hairs freeze together and feel like you got little ice caps, just like fluctuating on and off. It is such a weird feeling. I tell people you don't know cold till your nose hairs freeze together, and yeah, you get that little lovely feeling.
Well, next week now, program note, we're having the pro wrestlers join us first hour next week. We're having Cocky Tommy Two-Tone and King Leonidas. They will be joining us on air to talk about. Yeah,
Tommy Two-Tone.
Isn't that a great name? Come on, that's a great name. I wish
It has many implications.
I wish I could have a cool name like that. I really do. That'd be awesome.
What's a drag name for you? Let's see.
Cocky Tommy Two-Tone.
I just saw a really funny meme of Trump, and I'm sorry I know some people love Trump. It's okay, but this was hilarious. It was him in drag, and his name was Anita Wall.
Someone told me America's building a wall, but Mexico's building stairs. So,
Yes. I mean, oh my, there's always so much to discuss in that arena, so we won't.
No,
Right,
yeah,
right,
right.
right.
So
We
getting
won't go
back
there.
to what I was saying is February.
every day.
Every
but
single
go
day.
ahead.
February 2nd, I will be the ring announcer for WGW Pro Wrestling over there. Yeah, and so they're going to be coming on the air, going to be telling us all about the big event, all for the glory. So a couple of the wrestlers will come join us, not in studio, thank God, via phone, because I don't know. I was a little worried to have them in studio with me, because I wouldn't want to.
Cocky.
Yeah,
Being cocky and whatnot.
I wouldn't want an impromptu brawl to start. So,
No,
that would have been horrible. And
Equipment smashed over people's heads.
Yeah, just didn't want that to happen. But next, all right, February 2nd, doors open at 5, ring bell time 6:30, and they got all sorts of matches. I think 8 of them, but really goes for a good cause, mental health awareness. So, come on down and also donate to the food shelf while you're there. So, there you
All
go.
right, now remember, I told you about this last night. Remember, make sure that none of the wrestlers are possessed by demons.
Yeah, that'd be
When you
good.
get there.
Good point. I'm not an exorcist, but I do know a couple, and maybe I should reach out to them and
Play one on TV.
Yes, I should play it. Yeah, there you go. That perfect shtick right there. You're possessed. Oh my God.
Sprinkle some holy water around.
Yeah, I'll
the
bring a
place.
pea soup. Yeah. So again, February 2nd, Hibbing, Minnesota. Be a lot of fighting going on. You're gonna love it. All right, moving along here. What do you have in the old hopper there, Heidi?
Oh, there's so much good stuff. What do you mean? It's the new year.
Well, lay it on us.
I'm just kidding. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's 2019. Merry Christmas. All that stuff all rolled up in one, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I've got some short little paranormal stories here. Okay,
All right.
here's the first one. This person states, I was once showering. Well, thank God they were.
One time. Took a shower one time. That was enough for me.
That's it. Door locked when I heard the blinds fall down. It freaked me out so much that I pulled back the shower curtain to investigate. I'm thinking my brothers are trying to break in and play a prank on me or something. So I pull the blinds up to look out the window. I'm sure they were butt naked too. The window was completely fogged over from the inside, minus one large solitary handprint.
Oh.
I was scared as hell, finished my shower and told my family members. We all compared our handprints to that of the one in the window, and no one's was as big.
No, they all compared sizes.
Oh, like cocky Tommy Two-Tone.
Oh,
You just like that name, don't you, Eric?
I love that name.
Wasn't there a singer named Tommy Two-Tone?
There was a band from L.A.
All right. That's why it sounds so...
75309.
That's why it sounds so familiar. That's right, Tommy.
Jenny.
Yeah. Had the phone number and everything.
all right. You know what? I gotta share this weird story with you guys, and this happened to myself and a college roommate. We shared an apartment, and I don't even know what to tell you. So, like, my friend, I think it was the night before, she had a really weird dream that she was walking on a window ledge or something, and it's just really bizarre. But it was the next day that I'm like walking past. We had really wide window ledges and inside the apartment, and I saw clear as day really greasy looking like footprints
Oh.
on the window ledge. And I mean, the window ledge was like, I don't know, 3 feet off the ground. I mean, like, you couldn't even stand up on it to, your head would, yeah. And we're like, we just so happened to be the same size foot. And we tried our best to try to determine whose it was, because something similar had happened when I was a kid, like greasy footprints going up the side of the house. And
Up the side of the house?
yeah,
Like,
on the
And it's
aluminum.
even harder when it's greasy.
yeah.
It was
Wow.
like greasy looking, like footprints. Like, you would have to, the light has to hit it just right, and it's like, holy crap.
Huh.
Yeah,
Wow.
really odd, really odd.
Now
And it was that.
talented person. It's either Spider-Man or someone really talented.
Yeah, I remember showing my dad and my sister. We're just like looking at this thing, and my dad's like, "You girls are playing a prank." And we're like, "Really, Dad? Really? Like, how would we walk up the side of the house just to put greasy footprints? Like, we would do something muddy or something, but we couldn't get that high. I mean, it's just crazy stuff." So there you go.
That is crazy. That prank took a lot of thinking then. That's what it, probably a ladder, some grease, boots.
Yeah,
So it was either that or they walked up the side of your house.
crazy. Again, it looked like my size foot. It was really weird. But here goes the next one. Okay. My grandma lives in a very stereotypical horror movie house. A small Midwest town, white and old-looking home on a farm. She even has a chipped wooden Mary Nativity in the front yard. Oh, that does sound spooky. She also has a cemetery about a half mile down the road. I used to sleep in the room in the corner on the top floor, my aunt's room, and it had a wooden rocking chair in it. Oh, yeah, of course. When I was younger, I would wake up.
Wow.
You gotta have one of those, right? When I was younger, I would wake up because I thought I heard it rocking, to the point where I would wake up my grandma and have to stay in her room. About 10 years later, my mom and aunt and I were talking about how creepy my grandma's house was. My aunt goes on to talk about how when she was younger, the reason my mom and her ended up sharing a room was because she thought her room was haunted. She said she woke up one morning and the rocking chair was about 2 feet closer to her bed, and after that night, it would start rocking on a nightly basis only at midnight.
That's not creepy at all.
Oh. Dong.
Yeah, really? Dong.
Wow.
That was the final dong. That was the 12th dong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
I didn't bother with the first 11.
Oh, come on.
Redundant.
Dong, 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 dong. No.
Yeah, we'll wait for them. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Just do your thing.
Dong, 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 dong.
The bride. It kind of goes with
Vagina.
that. Oh,
What?
what was that? Lord have mercy.
Alrighty then.
Lots of dongs. Anyway, 12 of them to be. And then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that is scary. That would freak me the heck out. Okay. I got another one.
Was it mother?
Oh, wow. That's terrifying.
Nar, man.
All right, this person says, until a few years ago, I still had a flip phone.
You go
One
retro. Yeah, more power to you.
One day, I got a random call asking for some girl named Sarah. I told them they had the wrong number, and they just hung up. For the next few months, I would get these calls asking for Sarah.
And they're all random.
Yeah, about once or twice a week, coming from different numbers and different sounding people. Sometimes these calls came at 3 a.m. One day I got a call, and like usual, I said, I didn't know, Sarah. After they hung up, I went to my contacts and hit redial. The answering machine said that the number did not exist.
Oh.
I went back through my call history trying to call some other people that had called me with the same result. A machine telling me the number did not exist. Every time I would get these calls, I would redial the number and still I'd get the machine. I Googled the numbers.
Yeah.
I know, right? It's like, what is that?
Go to a payphone and try the number and see what happens.
Ooh, there you go.
You know?
I Googled the numbers, but all I learned was that they were coming from North Dakota and Montana. Basically, everywhere in the Midwest. The next time I got a call asking for Sarah, I said, oh yeah, she's right here. That's funny. And the other person on the other end said, no, she isn't, and hung up.
Maybe because they were Sarah.
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh.
Things started getting weird when I started getting calls from unknown numbers calling me.
No, not unknown.
Whoever or whatever was on the other end hung up the second I said, hello? Once I got a call where they didn't hang up after I said hello, and I could hear someone on the other end just listening, but they didn't say anything. Just something really uneasy about it. Well, good Lord, welcome to the century of spam calls.
Yeah. You know,
what is
because your flip phone, they're still able to prank you.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah, those still work.
You know, I remember the good old days of pranking. I really do. And I miss them. Damn caller ID.
Mark Simpson's got it covered. It's all good.
Great. It was wonderful.
All right, next one. I was staying at the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas.
The Flamingo.
And I was standing on one leg.
Yes.
Oldest property on the strip with a morbid mob history. In the middle of the night, I woke up and saw a dark figure moving around the foot of my bed and coming up the gap between the twin beds. I hit the light, and there was a full figure of a man in a 60s sports blazer with blood all over his face. Oh, my God. I yelled, go away, and started flinging
I
my
think
arms
I've seen that movie. I'm pretty sure I've seen that movie.
and started flinging my arms in his direction, and just like that, he disappeared.
Oh, yeah,
I woke
yeah.
my friend up, in the other bed, and my buddy said, "What the hell are you swatting at?" He says, "I told them and they laughed at me." The following morning, my buddy said, after I'd fallen asleep, water was dripping on his head, but there was no leak on the ceiling, and was
Raindrops are
convinced
falling on my head.
we may have shared a paranormal encounter. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, that is truly creepy.
Yeah, that's a juicy one, huh?
That is a juicy one. Scary.
Time to own the Audi you've always wanted. Because until February 28th, you can enjoy the Audi A4 with a complimentary style pack, saving you over €4,500. So, all you have to do is choose the colour. Call into your local Audi dealer during the 191 sales event. Terms and conditions apply while stocks last.
Okay, here we go. All right. I had a black cat named Casper. Huh? We adopted her after she ran away from the previous owner. She was missing for days before the previous owner found her in the bushes, skittish and frightened. After carrying her home, the owner discovered she was allergic to cats when her arm broke out with rashes. What?
Oh, poor cat.
That's too bad.
That is too bad.
Oh.
Sad state of affairs.
She put out a call for a new home, which was answered by my animal-loving family. For ages, she was scared to come near anyone and was totally averse to being petted. Oh.
Wow.
Eventually, she turned into a total ham, never missing the chance to jump on you and lie with you. We loved her, and I loved her heaps. What? I mean, who says loved her heaps?
Yeah.
Clearly, this
They love it a little too much, if you ask me. Yeah. Just saying.
Keeping bunch there. Then one day, she lost the use of her back legs. Aw. Not long after that, she passed away. I was having a rough time then, and she was a big comforter. Point is, my parents and I were sad. A few days later, I'm sitting on my front step having a smoke, and I hear a meowing sound identical to Casper. I look out front, and there at the gate was a cat meowing at me that looked just like Casper.
Oh, no. A black cat meowing at you.
I know, right? I'm like, hold it. There's a.
I don't want to get buried in a pet cemetery.
What a name to give him, Casper, too, right?
Yeah, right?
I think it was ironic.
Yeah, right. I went over and it ran away. I looked down the street after it and it was gone. I mentioned it to my parents. They said the same thing happened to each of them separately, which was a surprise to them, too. Now, it could have been a similar cat from the neighborhood, but it only happened once to each of us and then was never seen again. Aw. Kitties, I believe in that pets come to say hello.
Sure.
saying
why not?
goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, goodbye. If it was a one-time thing and every member of the family, that was darn courteous of Casper.
That was very nice of him to do that.
Casper
one
the
last time.
friendly cat ghost.
Yeah.
Wasn't Casper a girl, too? Did you say? Didn't you say Casper's a girl?
I thought it was a boy.
I may have
Casper,
misheard.
you mean the cartoon character? Yeah, that's a dude. It's a
Yeah,
guy.
no, I mean the cat, though.
Oh.
I thought we heard that the cat was a girl.
Might have been.
Well, Oh, well.
Further irony.
Yeah, more gold. Just more. That's all.
All right, here goes another one. When I was 16, I was riding horses with my friend in the field beside her house. The horse threw me, and I hit my head hard. The next thing I know, I'm on my back in incredible pain, staring up at my friend, who is frantically screaming at me.
Wow, what
Like,
a friend.
I'm just kidding.
Get up!
Yeah, you're not hurt. Dazed, my gaze shifted and then refocused on her friend behind her. A tall, thin man, ooh, this is my guy, wearing a black suit and an old-fashioned wide-brimmed hat. It's the Hat Man. Oh, look at that.
Really, the Hat Man.
That is the Hat Man.
I did not know he was an equestrian.
Oh, he'll show up at any accident hoping to grab an easy kill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a
paper
bastard.
cuts, you name it, he'll be there. Oh, my God, it's a paper cut.
Satan himself right there, paper cuts. Let me tell you. I'm just kidding. He was staring, unblinking, into my eyes over my friend's shoulder. Days later, she came to visit me in the hospital. And I asked her about the man I'd seen. I thought it was the new boyfriend she'd recently told me about. She told me there was no one there but
Lipo, the Hat Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little does this person know that was, he's kind of like a Grim Reaper at times. So he was there just, licking his lips, I'm sure, like, ooh, his one's going down. That's terrible.
Oh.
That's sick. All right. Okay, there goes another one. All right. Back in 2005, when I was in a band that toured the country.
Gypsies.
In a 15-passenger van with a trailer. Oh, these guys had made it. We were on the way from Columbus, Ohio to Erie, Pennsylvania. The show had been canceled in Ohio due to a power outage, so we decided to get on the road early as we had friends in Erie who were taking us in for the night. Is this from you, Eric? I'm just kidding.
Well, they skirted right by our neighborhood, that's for sure.
I'll never forget this moment for the rest of my life. We were all having a conversation. There were 8 of us total in the van when the driver and passenger both shouted simultaneously. What the hell was that? I'm getting goosebumps on my arms right now just remembering the event. I was sitting behind the driver with my back against the window, and I didn't see anything, but we heard a whooshing sound as if something flew right over the van. My friend who was sitting next to me looked like he had just seen a ghost. We wound up pulling over on the side of the road because everyone was freaking out, thinking that we hit something, but nothing was found. Both the passenger and driver said they saw, oh my God, here we go again, a tall black figure. Man.
Wow, that guy's everywhere. Oh, he's a real party
this.
crasher.
I didn't expect that. Like, I don't read these before I read these to you guys.
Wow.
Wow, saw a tall black figure lunge at the van from the shoulder of the left lane. My friend who was sitting next to me said the same thing. Wow. The next day we inspected the van in daylight and noticed there were streak marks across the roof of the van. It was Jeepers Creepers, I'm pretty sure. That's what that was.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Every 27 years or whatever it comes out to speed. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That gave me chills.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
geez
strange.
Louise.
Yeah. I mean, they should have stopped and offered the guy a ride.
Probably didn't have his hand out and his thumb up.
It would have been the courteous thing to do. You did hit him after all.
I would have figured that it was a UFO, something whooshing. I thought that's where it was going. And it's like, wow, and it's like every once in a while I get these people who are just like, I didn't know this was a thing. I can't believe that.
Where they've been under a rock?
Like I don't know. It's like these people just don't get into the topic, and then it just bugs them for years, and they decide to Google man in a suit and hat, and I pop up, and they write me, and they're like, "This is real." I'm like, "Yeah. Sorry, welcome."
There's just some things you don't want to Google, and that's one of them.
Yeah. Oh, they do it all the time. I have lost track how many have written me in that sense, like saying that. It's like, I can't believe this. It always bothered me. And here you are. I can't believe I'm writing you. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Get comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Get comfortable.
Yeah.
You're in for the long haul now.
Yeah. It's like, whew, that's just crazy. You guys will get a kick out of this. I practice as a therapist, of course. And there's this guy at my job. He's he's really into horror films. And I'm like looking at the tattoos I'm talking about barely in his space on his arm. And what does he have but freaking Jason?
Yeah.
Jeepers, Creepers. I mean, he's got all of these people like crammed on his arm. And like not everybody knows my background, right? And I'm like, oh, look at that. You really get it. So it's like got Freddy Krueger on there. Oh yeah, I love the horror films. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, I don't know what I would do if any of this stuff was real. I started cracking up. I said, oh, it is.
It is real.
And he said, really? And I'm like, and I'm totally toying with him. I'm like, yeah, look up this thing called the Hat Man. He's sitting there on his computer. Okay, all right. He's like, stops and he looks at me. What? You popped up. Oh, did? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you see that hat? he was frozen. The man is like 6'5" and just a big old dude. And he's like, oh no. Like, yeah. And it's on your arm. I'm like, you got Jeepers Creepers and Freddy right next to each other wearing the same hat.
True.
Dude.
True. Oh, he's doomed. Doomed.
Not so tough now, is he?
He's doomed. Doomed.
Scared. And he really was scared. And then he like told me today, he's like, recently I had a nightmare of something. I'm like, here we go. Sure enough, it was a sleep paralysis, like shadow people thing. I'm like,
man.
Yep.
Well, that would be freaky as all hell.
Yep, you've experienced them. I'm like, yep. Oh, welcome to the fold.
Yeah, well, you know what my daughter does to me? She looks at me in all seriousness and she says, I'll joke about turning her light off, and she'll say, but the night monster comes.
Ooh.
I'm like, well, what do you mean the night monster? I dreamt about him one time. It's just, yeah. So that's the newest thing, the night monster. Sounds like a great horror flick right there.
Wow.
The night
How old
monster.
is she?
She's 5. But she has a vivid.
Well, that's pretty sophisticated.
She has a vivid imagination, and so actually, after she described him, he sounded more like the guy from Monsters Inc., Sully, than anything else. So
I love it.
Oh, well, that's Sully. No, it's the night monster. That's exactly how she'll say it sometimes. She says the creepiest things is, "You'll be dead soon. You're gonna die soon."
She doesn't. Oh my God, she's gonna be your little ghost assistant on your next haunting.
Oh yeah, she went up to her grandma the other day and said, "Yeah, you're gonna die soon, aren't you?" I know, you're old. You're gonna die soon.
Dude, okay, I am her future. I'm gonna tell you what I said to my stepmother the first time I met her. I was like. She was talking. I was sitting on her lap. I was like 8 years old. And as she's talking, I grabbed her jaw and I looked in. I said, is that gold in your teeth? She said, yeah. I said, and I looked in her eyes. I said, when you die, I'm going to dig you up.
I'm going to dig you up.
To your mouth.
Oh, my Lord.
Wow.
And
man, that's
creepy
brutal.
Kid, creepy kid.
My stepmother, I didn't know later, she cried to my dad about it. And he said, oh, no, you'll just have to get used to that. Heidi's got a twisted sense of humor.
Yeah, I'm going to dig you up. I'm going to steal your teeth.
Oh, but it gets better. Here's the second part to it. So we were at a sad event, a funeral. And my stepmother and my dad, they're really sad and they're bawling their eyes out. And I'm sitting behind them. And I just couldn't take seeing them like that anymore. So I shoved my head between the two of them from where I was sitting. And I said, when you die, I'm still going to dig you up.
I'm still going to dig you up. You're done. I'm going to steal your teeth.
My stepmother started gyrating so hard, she ran out of the funeral home, cracking up. My dad started shaking so hard, he slightly tilted in this seat.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, what?
She came back and sat down and said, "You're terrible, Heidi." She stopped crying.
Well, yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine. My daughter likes to say to her grandma and me once in a while, "Can I have that when you're dead?"
Oh,
what?
That's funny. She's twisted. I am her future.
Can I have that when you're dead?
Welcome once again.
The night monster.
Wow.
The night monster.
Talk about morbid kitties.
I know. Believe me. She is gonna become a horror film writer or something with that imagination.
I am her future.
Yeah, there you go. We gotta get out of here. We have to go to break. We come back. We're going to go through America's Most Haunted headlines. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey. Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
She's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
What do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torrin Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. Got the remote.
Great. Now grab that Torrin Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturz. It's right along with me,
Eric Olson, and
Twisted Heidi Hollis.
And it is time to go fire up the yay old Twitter. Point your browsers to Twitter and search out AM Haunted, America's Most Haunted, and you can follow along and make sure as you're doing that, when you're all done with that, and you should run over there right now. Well, not right now, after the Twitter feed. Run over, if you've ever been there, America's-Most-Haunted.com, and that is the coolest website on the internet for all things paranormal and amazable. Great articles over there.
Woo!
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you. Wondrous. So we are now at twitter.com/AM Haunted, my friends, and we are rocking out. The reason to go look at it, not just listen to us, is because all of these tweets are visual, and you want to see the pictures and follow the links and all this stuff. All right, well, I just saw Heidi had this up on Facebook, and I had it on Twitter. We must have similar sources. I mean, there's only so many paranormal stories, right?
Right.
That's
Let's
right.
face it. But this one, this is creepy, and look at that picture. I mean, goodness, it is something. Atlanta mother sees ghost of dead son on kitchen security camera. And as plain as day, there is a humanoid figure and appears to be wearing maybe like pajamas. And he looks younger than this son was when he died. He was in his 20s. And this looks more like a kid to me anyway.
Yeah.
But she said she recognizes him. And she interpreted it, his appearance, as meaning that he is okay, at peace. I'm not exactly sure why she came to that conclusion, but, I don't wish to upset her further. But imagine that, you got your security, your CCTV going, and you see your, I think it was 3 years, dead son in the footage. And then I guess they ran into the kitchen and nothing was there that they could see. when they got there. But
that is creepy.
That is one of the clearest pictures I've seen.
Yeah.
It's like a son to be in the kitchen grabbing something to eat.
Yeah, it's almost too clear. You know what I'm saying? Almost too clear.
Too clear. Well, it is something. Assuming it is legitimate. We must always add that. We always add the caveat. Assuming it's legitimate.
Assuming
it's a pretty interesting shot. That is for sure. I'm not sure if that really is the only picture, though. Although I guess they were seeing it. Apparently, they were seeing it live on the video, so it would have been, whatever, moving. But if this picture, this still, which I assume is from the video, if that's the only one, it's a profile view, so I'm not sure. You don't really see the face. I'm not sure.
If it's an angel.
It is almost angelic. I agree.
Yeah.
It's almost like a robe. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And you see the arm, so it's a short sleeve. You see the hairline. I mean, it looks like a boy to me, not like a young man.
How heartbreaking would that be for those parents, though, to see that?
Horrifying.
And yeah, that'd be really hard to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check that out, my friends. That comes from The Sun, although there were a number of sources of that particular tale because it is so striking. All right. Have you guys heard of Black Box TV? That's one I hadn't heard of. Apparently,
no, I don't think I have heard of Black Box.
I guess it's a streamer, and apparently, I don't know if they always go through YouTube. So, in other words, they're a YouTube channel, or if they're just doing it this time. But anyway, looks like really good production values. It's not some cheapo thing, but there's a new horror anthology series that will be seen on YouTube and under the Black Box TV channel, and it's called Welcome to Daisyland. And Daisyland is some old school theme park, amusement park. And what the show is about, the series is about, is what happens after they close.
Okay. It's freaky stuff after hours.
Exactly, at Daisyland, and that will go live. I guess it's not technically streaming since it'll be one episode at a time. Looks like one each week.
Okay.
And the first one is released on Valentine's Day, and again, that's through Black Box TV and YouTube. They also have a website for, I assume you'll be able to see it there too, called Welcome to Daisyland, naturally. All right, moving along. Boy, I'll tell you, I liked the movie Van Helsing way better than most critics did. And it's one of those ones that seems to have kind of found its audience and it's become kind of a cult classic. Because at the time, it was viewed as something of a disappointment because it was a big budget movie, and it was kind of the first attempt to continue or to bring back the Universal monster.
Yeah, the Hugh Jackman flick, right? He plays
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
He's Van Helsing. So anyway, I love those three brides of Dracula. Those are my favorite three brides of Dracula of all time.
Mine too.
And they are super hot, but they're creepy too. They're not just hot.
They got that creepy hot factor going for them. I think that's what they went for.
But hot. And anyway, I love that movie. There's some silly things to it. The other thing about the movie, Hugh Jackman's great in it. Kate Beckinsale's great in it, although her accent's a little off. But it has my all-time favorite Frankenstein's monster, I should say, other than the original Boris Karloff. It is a great performance, and it's such a great persona, and he really strikes the right chord, kind of the perfect chord between being super big and scary and mean and nasty, and extremely sympathetic. He's very intelligent. Anyway, if you guys, it's been out a while now. I don't know. It's already, maybe is it 15 years ago? It's at least 10 years ago. So maybe a lot of people aren't aware of it. But if you haven't seen it, It really is. It's one of my favorites. It's not really a horror movie, you know. It's more like kind of a scary monster movie, but it's really good. Production values are good. Great performances. Oh, and a great Dracula too. And anyway, so I love it. And but the best factor of all, I think, are the 3 hot, spooky brides. And there we have a picture of them looking hot and spooky.
And that they are.
And they're all European actresses, by the way. I think one of them didn't even speak English, so she had to. Her lines had to be delivered phonetically.
Oh boy!
All right, so you know that we also reference the America's Most Haunted Pinterest feed. There's always creepy pictures over there, weird, strange things. And I came across, I get a lot of holiday stuff still. I'm still getting Halloween pictures as well as, of course, Christmas pictures.
Oh, wow.
Especially weird Christmas pictures. So here we have about 100-year-old, I guess you'd call it a costume. It's a person inside a Christmas tree costume. And looking very strange.
Very strange.
What it reminded me of is it's time to take down that Christmas tree.
Yeah, I think that person's a loner in that tree there.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just sad.
Take that tree down,
It's a strange picture.
So if you're big on Pinterest, if you're a Pinterest dweller, please do seek out the America's Most Haunted Pinterest feed as well. All right, moving along. I saw Heidi had this too. Boy, great minds alike. Have you seen this, Joel? There's a massive, perfectly round, rotating ice disc in a river in Maine.
Oh, yeah.
Wild.
I've seen those actually around here as well.
I've seen them before too, but much smaller than this puppy.
Yeah, that's huge.
Well,
and
look
that's
at the parking
giant.
garage next to it. I mean, look how big it is. And it's perfectly round, and it rotates. Isn't that strange? I think it's all...
300 feet across, they said.
Well, you can almost jump on it there, and you can go ice skating.
Yeah. I was thinking the same. Like, if I could, I'd probably try to hop on there.
Well, it's like the carousel at the playground where you spin it around, you hang on.
Yeah, except you don't have to worry about pushing it yourself. It just keeps going.
Right.
I'll tell you what, when my oldest daughter was born, my oldest child, so I was young and reckless myself, shall we say, and she and I used to go to the playground, and she would get on that thing, and she knew to brace herself, and she would up those feet. She would dig in those little feet against the inner bar, and then, we would bring other children aboard. Unsuspecting. And I would whip that thing with the strength of Hercules, sending children flying through the air.
I was just going to say, I think I saw that on The Simpsons once, and all the kids were scattered because they flew off of there.
It was more fun than a barrel of monkeys.
You were a cool dad.
Well, or cruel.
Yeah, or cruel, yeah. I mean,
yeah, I like both. Yeah.
It was cool and cruel. Well, of course, my own child knew how to protect herself.
Yeah, well, that's the only one you care about, though. I mean, that's really the only one you care about. The rest of them, yes, go flying.
You know, kids really need that from dads. They really do.
They need to be beaten about the face in that way.
Honestly, well, guys know how to live a little and just let loose and woohoo! You know, what happens, happens. Everybody for themselves, you know? just take it. Take one for the team. Have a little fun.
All of that, I'm totally down with it. I must add, this was a deep and large sand pit around the carousel. So it's not like they were being propelled onto concrete.
And
moving cars, you know, really close to the road.
It was in the median.
My brother once flew off from a swing set and landed in a tree, knocked himself out, and was laying up there. My mom had to crawl up there to get him.
Oh my God. Tree. Oh, that was another one of my favorites. Oh Lord, I would push them so. You know those when you go to the park, the real swing sets where the bar is like 20 feet in the air.
Yeah.
You can really get going. And, I remember the squeals of delight and horror from my young children. And they picked up on, there was a phrase, because we started in Southern California, and if you pushed them high enough that they went over your head, that was called an underdoggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Underdoggy, Daddy, underdoggy. All these mothers and children are looking on in horror as they're out of sight. I can't see them against the sun.
The mother let them play with the dad.
I hope he comes back down and they come.
Damn.
I love it.
Underdoggy, Daddy, underdoggy.
Yes.
Cool, but cruel.
Oh, that is just cruel.
I have to admit I was a little more restrained with the next two. I was in my 40s for the next two, so that
yeah,
a little different.
Yeah,
20.
but when you're in your 20s, man, it's balls to the wall. I mean,
I was a little reckless, maybe. All right, moving along. I love these. You guys know what light pillars are?
I see them.
Look at this picture. Those are light pillars. And what it looks like, because there's a whole bunch of them next to each other.
Looks like a wall.
Or a curtain from heaven.
Yeah.
It's like God smeared the planet.
It's really pretty.
It
It's that'd be really pretty to look at.
Oops, I smeared that one.
We'll start all over again.
Yeah. Well, it's infinite, There's more where that came from.
Oh, God.
Just an experiment. Anyway, really amazing image. Where was this from? I think it was Canada. Let me look. This comes from our friends at Mysterious Universe, one of the better, or at least more prolific paranormal sites. It's taking too long to load. Screw you. Moving along. I love that picture, though. Really, really beautiful image. It's just some quiet neighborhood. I believe there's snow. And then these light pillars, and they're all, like I said, they're usually you only see kind of one or maybe two at a time, but this is a whole bunch of them next to each other. All right, this is another one from Mysterious Universe, and this is one of the kind of anthology tales, sort of, where they take on a topic, and this is paranormal madness along the Appalachian Trail, and there's some really creepy stories there. I mean, it only makes sense. It's I think it's 2,000 mile, at least 1,500 mile long trail. It's through mountains and woods. Much of it is very remote and desolate. And I mean, it just reminds you of like Little Red Riding Hood. And that's one of the tales. All these creepy little ghost kids came up to these people, said hi, said zup.
Yeah, I've always wanted to hike that.
I've hiked a very short portion of it, but there's people who do the whole trail.
That's what I mean, do the whole thing. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, I dreamt I did the whole thing. Does that count?
Well,
in another...
Yeah, maybe you did it in another reality.
On a parallel plane, sure.
Okay, cool.
It counts, absolutely. So anyway, interesting story from Mysterious Universe about various paranormal encounters along the Appalachian Trail. All right, another new horror movie. Couple of old guys, let's face it, but horror legends. Bill Moseley and John Jarrett, who is Australian himself.
Yeah.
And so there's a new Australian film. I guess it was released last year there, maybe even 17 there, but it's going to be coming out here in the U.S. It's a creature feature called Boar, and it is practical effects. So there is a real, huge, enormous, scary, spiky, horny boar that, just annoys people out on the outback.
Huh. Wow. Man, you can never go wrong with a horny boar.
No, can't. Never. So anyway, that's coming. It's called Boar, as in B-O-A-R, like in a huge-ass pig, in other words. And terrorizing the Outback, and that will be coming to theaters, or at least on demand. I forgot to look near you shortly. All right, well, yet another in an endless line of not just remakes. Now the buzzword is reimagined.
Yeah, reboot is gone. They don't do that anymore.
Reboot is gone. Remake is gone. Now we reimagined.
Oh, they're going to reimagine The Grudge, aren't they?
The Grudge is coming back, reimagined. It'll be starring aging horror chanteuse Lynn Shay, who's most recently been the star of the Insidious franchise.
Hopefully they reimagine it better than the original.
Yeah, it didn't do that much for me. And John Cho will be in that as well. John's been around.
I'm going to go check out Glass tomorrow. That new movie. Yeah.
Getting very mixed reviews.
Yeah, I heard that, but Split, I actually like the movie Split, even though that got mixed reviews. And
but more Split had more positive than negative reviews.
Yeah,
this one seems to be kind of right down the middle. And Unbreakable, I mean, that was a critical favorite.
I liked that. I've been waiting for the follow-up for that.
Well, you know, whenever you go see what's his name? Shyamalan Ding Dong.
M. Night.
Yeah, there we go. M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong film. You never know what you're going to get.
No, you don't.
It's either great and wonderful, or it's a total train wreck. There is no in between. Like The Happening, right? That was an absolute train wreck. Sixth Sense. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Classic.
Amazing.
So
but very few after that, though. I know Unbreakable was great, but after that, just not a whole lot. Signs was a train wreck.
He fell out. He fell off the Hollywood map. He had to actually.
I like Signs.
He had to do his own. Oh, I did too. I liked Signs. I thought that was good. That was about his last really big hit before he had his comeback. Mm-hmm. So, but when he came back, what was the one with the grandparents that did quite well? But
The Visit.
He financed that.
Yeah.
That was self-produced. So I mean, he fell out of the Hollywood, market, and he's had to come back, and he's considered, now he's back in favor. So I guess we'll see how Glass does. It concludes the trilogy quite a bit apart, almost 20 years apart between the first and the last. But let us know, of course, how.
Yeah, we're going to check that out tomorrow. Date night, so we're definitely going to have to go check that out.
All right, they keep finding all the time. They're always finding new species, which is probably good because every day some other species goes extinct. Actually, what are they? There's dozens, I think, every day that go extinct that we don't even know about. But they just found a new frog in species from Ecuador, and the scientific description of him is... This is a frog that will cut a bitch.
I like that. Are those fingernails?
Look on the inside of the front tube. Those are knives.
Wow.
And they use them to stab their prey, and they can even skin their prey with those claws/knives.
No, thank you.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, how many freaking toes does this thing have?
Yeah, right.
More than you need.
Yeah.
And they all have knives, or the front ones have knives on them, huh?
Yeah, look at that. Isn't that crazy?
That is
and the back feet are like doubled.
Yeah.
They are. It is weird.
Well, I wonder how big this frog is, though. It might be just tiny.
Oh, I think it's small, yeah.
It's so weird. You can see its heart, I think, right in the center, and it's really heart-shaped.
Yeah, the blue, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a great image. Obviously taken on glass. The frog is on glass.
They didn't want to touch him.
Now look at this next one. Talk about weird freakiness.
Yeah.
So they have built a robot out of a 280 million. That's pre-dinosaurs. This is before the dinosaurs. This is a fossil. It's a real fossil. And they made a robot out of it in order to figure out, because they didn't know for themselves until they actually, created it, and then they have simulated its movement. So now they know how it moved.
It has swag.
It
really did have
It
swag.
did. It
yeah.
did have a
Seemed
lot
just
of
cruising
swag.
along, dropping a couple little poops here and there. Yeah, I dropped a poop. Yeah.
I can't believe
think
it.
about
They
it?
let them do that to the actual fossil. That's
It is peculiar, isn't it? But now they know how he moves.
Yeah, that is. I'm surprised they haven't got the DNA yet and just cloned a new one.
they probably did.
Oh, that's gonna happen. They found. I guess they found a skin of the extinct Tasmanian tiger. I think it is. It's like a little thing, and they're saying it has enough DNA. They can bring it back.
Wow.
I bet they just let these things loose in Chicago, and all these murders are not really murders.
Whatever
They're just
happened to the
letting
flying?
experiments out.
Whatever happened to the flying thing in Chicago? We don't hear about that anymore.
Isn't that the truth? I haven't heard of that either. It may be still going on. It's just kind of died down in popularity. But
It's winter.
yeah, it
True.
gets cold. It doesn't have fur, I guess, huh?
Well, I suppose it has to pick and choose.
Screw this noise, man! My hair,
I'm
nose,
flying-
my
I'm flying
nostril
south.
hairs are freezing.
I'm flying
They're
south.
over the border.
He said, Heidi was right. My nostril hairs are freezing. I'm gonna lay low for a while.
I heard about that, and man, icicles.
Icicles. It is a weird sensation when your nose hairs freeze, isn't it?
Oh yes. Oh
It-
yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah.
When
I'll
you're
never
breathing,
forget the time a couple of years ago at 80 some below with wind chill, and you walked out and it like took your breath away. It was like trying to do. You had to get ready like you're going on a deep space walk.
Yeah, I remember being a kid in Wisconsin, 50 below, and the entire city was frozen.
Yep.
No car would start up. School was off because nothing moved. So
Yep.
it happened. Yep.
That is
Crazy.
dangerous
Yeah,
stuff. I'll tell
certain
you.
death outside your door.
You must be careful. All right. Well, speaking of creepy but hot vampires, we have an image of a Elvira-like vampire rising from her coffin, and so naturally the caption is "Early to bed, early to rise." All right, so you got to check that out. Remember, go to twitter.com/amhaunted. You too may see the images. I had never heard of this. I consider myself, somewhat at least attuned to the art world. I suppose I'm not really that up on real current artists, but I had never heard of the Meow Wolf psychedelic art collective. Have you heard of that?
No.
Either of you?
No, I haven't.
Meow Wolf.
Meow.
Well, they are a team, and they work together, being a collective and all. And they have put on some just astonishing exhibits. And this article comes from Rolling Stone, has lots of images of their shows, but it's all very colorful, very psychedelic. It is very surreal, but these aren't paintings or sculptures. These are art in the real world. So you walk through these pieces of art. So it's very, very cool. Meow Wolf. Check them out, especially if you're into psychedelic, which I am. I love the psychedelic, probably the era I grew up in. Used to love Peter Max, and had a black light, had an actual working black light probably when I was
Jamming
12.
out to Pink Floyd. Yeah.
I was jamming, no doubt about it. And had my black light posters, and on and on and on and on. Remember when we talked to Joel? When we talked to the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft?
Yes, I do.
And they had a number of black light posters.
They did.
That I had owned.
Really?
Wow. Oh.
I mean, not that copy of it.
But that.
Yeah.
But the same poster. Yeah. Black light. Some
Neat.
classic late 60s blacklight posters. So, yeah, there you go. All right. Well, they just found out. They're always finding out new stuff. Boy, I'll tell you, this is the golden age of astronomy and cosmology. They just found out that a key factor in the formation of our very own Milky Way galaxy was a enormous, imagine this, collision with another galaxy, an entire other galaxy, and the Milky Way slammed into each other somewhere between 8 and 11 billion years ago. And we are still feeling the ramifications. They merged, basically, is what happened. But imagine the impact of those stars hitting each other. You can see it. We have a GIF of simulation, and so the red one is the other one, much smaller than the Milky Way, coming in.
Cool,
and look what happens.
Yep, very cool, Eric. We got to get out of here, though. It's already that time. We're going to be having James Rollins join us in just a bit. Got a great new book called The Crucible. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off. I can't believe it. I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer, throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey, girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson.
And tonight we're talking to James Rollins tonight, and he wrote Crucible, which is a great book. I mean, it's very timely, by the way, but I will step aside and let Eric do what he does best, the great intro.
Yes, Crucible will be coming out the day I go to the dentist. Believe it or not. So it's marked on my calendar. Crucible comes out the 22nd, and yes, I'll be at the dentist. All right, Crucible. In Crucible, a riveting, thought-provoking, inventive, and timely speculative adventure novel. Number 1, New York Times best-selling author James Rollins asks, what does it mean to have a soul? He explores this question through the lens of artificial intelligence, interweaving the troubling history of the persecution of women believed to be witches. His own research into the discrimination of female scientists in today's enlightened times, quote unquote, informs his portrayal of the women scientists featured in the book. Arriving home on Christmas Eve, Commander Gray Pierce discovers his house ransacked, his pregnant lover missing, and his best friend's wife, Kat, unconscious on the kitchen floor. With no shred of evidence to follow, his one hope to find the woman he loves and his unborn child is Kat, the only witness to what happened. But the injured woman is in a semi-comatose state and cannot speak until a brilliant neurologist offers a radical approach to unlock her mind long enough to ask a few questions. What Pierce learns from Kat sets Sigma Force on a frantic quest for answers that are connected to mysteries reaching back to the Spanish Inquisition and to one of the most reviled and blood-soaked books in human history, the medieval text known as the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches. What they uncover hidden deep in the past will reveal a frightening truth in the present and a future on the brink of annihilation. And I will add, out of the side of my mouth, his writing, his descriptive abilities just keeps getting better. You know, you think you reach a point where, oh yeah, you know, I've only sold like 20 million books and I rule and everything, and I don't have to get better, and yet he does. Who is he? James Rollins. He is, as we said, the number 1 New York Times bestselling author, international thrillers translated into more than 40 languages, more than 20 million copies sold. The New York Times says Rollins is what you might wind up with if you tossed Michael Crichton and Dan Brown into a particle accelerator together. And NPR calls his work adventurous and enormously engrossing. Rollins unveils unseen worlds, scientific breakthroughs, and historical secrets, and does it all at breakneck speed and with stunning suspense. Rollins has pursued scuba, spelunking, and other adventures around the world, and currently lives and writes in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. And of course, those of you who know him know he has a background in veterinary medicine. I believe he still volunteers that work. I'm not sure if we can name every one of the books, but let's just say the series. He is the author of the absolutely riveting, best-selling Sigma Force, of which this is the latest. Crucible is the latest. There are many, many of those. I guess it's number 14. He's done 6 individual adventure thrillers, the blockbuster movie novelization, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the Tucker Wayne series, the Order of the Sanguine series. That's been my favorite so far because it has vampires. And the Jake Ransom middle grade series. Crucible, as we mentioned, debuts January 22nd next week. Welcome to the program, James Rollins.
Thank you very much. Eric, I have to say that I think I want to bring you on my book tour with me. I'm always challenged when someone says, what's your book about? And I'm like, oh, it's witches and artificial intelligence, and it's a roller coaster ride, but you do a much better job.
Well, thank you.
Along with me.
Thank you so very much. I will be your troubadour and sing your praises.
Thank you.
What a great job. I don't know if you remember, we've talked a few times before. I always say I never finish the book before the interview because I am doomed to give things away, and I have stayed true, have not finished this one, so I don't know how it ends either. But wow, what a tale. And you somehow weave together these seemingly extremely disparate elements of artificial intelligence. And I really do want to get into that because you are very, very cautious and fearful of what that may lead us to, and tying it in together with kind of the history of witchcraft, in particular persecution of witches. It's really, and then with your trademark high adventure, tech, scientific, all of your areas of expertise, you whip it all together, and it is some amazing stuff. So I had to get that out there. Joel, you want to start some questions?
Absolutely, man.
I am impressed once again.
Oh yeah, but I'm always interested and what gets, people that, you don't want young quotations that aren't trained writers, right? Because, I mean, you come from a veterinarian background. What got you into writing, I guess, is the first question.
I almost stumbled into it backwards. I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian from third grade. I got that assignment. I'm sure everybody encountered in their elementary school years. Your teacher assigns you, go home, write a short couple paragraphs about what you want to be when you grow up. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian, but it was a point of moral dilemma for the third grade version of myself. I remember sitting at my desk, I had a blank sheet of paper in front of me. I knew I wanted to fill it out as veterinarian. The only problem was I didn't know how to spell it. So I did the one thing that all third graders hate to do. I got the dictionary and looked it up. That determined from third grade to be a veterinarian. Because I loved animals, loved medicine, loved science. That's one side of my brain, but the other side of my brain is a little more twisted, a little weirder. I grew up with 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and I loved sort of terrorizing them with stories that I would try to get them to believe. If tears were involved, all the better. My mom called it lying. I call it storytelling.
Lying. Oh, mom wasn't very imaginative or charitable.
Oh, gosh. She didn't recognize the talent, did she?
Apparently not.
I know. But now she recognizes it, I'm sure.
Exactly. I never thought there was a career path towards that. I knew if you did this, this, and this, you can become a veterinarian. Yeah. But if you do this, this, and this, you can fail horribly as a writer. So I went with the path that seemed more promising. But unfortunately, I kept reading. And reading is like gasoline on that little twisted corner of my brain that loves to spin tales. And I thought one of these days, I'll get around to writing. And, a year went by, another year went by, and I realized, eventually, if I'm going to try this, I better try it. So I wrote some short fiction for about 4 years, horrible stuff that's buried in my backyard. Hopefully will never see the light of day. But based on that,
moldering,
I sold a single short story, and I tried, believe me. Any magazine that might even tangentially might be appropriate for the story, I would submit it to. Nothing. But based on that success, I decided I better write a novel. And surprisingly, that novel sold. And then another sold, and then another. Then my clients became suspicious of what was going on. Mostly, I had posters in my lobby, get your cat spayed, get a free book. Some questions arose across that exam table. Dr. Jim, you've got the successful veterinary clinic. What's this writing business you're doing? Yeah. Please explain to us what your life goal is. Where's your path headed? I'm thinking, you are awful nosy while I'm draining your dog's anal glands. But
yeah, right? What's up with all the questions?
Who are you, my mother?
Exactly. So I thought, my attempt to explain that was, well, for 20 years, veterinary medicine was my paycheck and writing was a hobby. I made no money off my writing.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe down the line, wouldn't it be cool to flip that around a little bit and have, writing be my paycheck and veterinary medicine just be my hobby. And that's pretty much what I'm doing today. I always resent when somebody says former veterinarian. I can still neuter a cat under 30 seconds if need arises.
It's like riding a bike.
Exactly. Well, I also, I practice still. I work with a group that traps feral cats in the area. They bring them to the shelter. I spend one Sunday a month for about 8 hours spaying and neutering them. Basically, all I'm doing now with my veterinary degree is just removing genitalia, but,
someone has to do it.
I was going to say, someone's got
it. It is a hobby, so.
Well, a little mutilation on the side. A little light mutilation on the side never hurt anybody. But, James, you talked about getting into the writing, but, it had to have been discouraging in the beginning. I mean, we look at you today and look at you. I mean, New York Times #1 bestseller. But your early days, did you find it incredibly discouraging? I mean, did you ever doubt yourself, or you just keep going, just plugging, just hitting it and just go?
Well, that first novel I wrote was rejected by 49 different agents. I'm not rounding up or down. There's a 50th agent that apparently saw something in that rough draft to want to represent. And those, usually your rejections are form rejections. Dear sir or ma'am, we hate your book. Don't submit to us again. Editor. Some editor might write you a little note on the back of encouragement. For example, this one St. Martin's Press editor for my book Subterranean sent me the form rejection letter, but on the back was this personal note to me, just 3 words. This is unpublishable. Well, I have to respect.
Ouch!
Thank you so
Exactly.
much.
Kudos. At least you took the extra special time besides just, not just rejecting me, but taking the extra time to kick me in the nuts besides. So,
Well, he knew that you were spending time spaying and neutering.
exactly. But eventually that did sell. So, I mean, again, I am doggedly, skip the pun there, persistent about submitting, getting it out there. I liked my book. I figured someplace it would find a home, and it did. And long story short, I always call myself a stealth bestseller, in that my first book hit the very bottom of the bestseller list, the next book a little bit higher, next book a little bit higher. And so I've sort of crept my way up to that spot. Yeah. Hopefully no one was aware that was happening.
What is your best-selling book so far?
Each book has, and I'm lucky to be able to say this, each book has sold better than the book prior.
Wow, really?
Trust me, my publishing house is very, they've got all the statistics. They're very keen on that. Makes me nervous, especially with a new book coming out. I don't want to stumble on this track record.
I can't imagine there are that many writers who can say that, especially who are now as prolifically published as you are. I mean, Stephen King can't say that. That's amazing. Actually, what do you attribute that to?
I actually attribute to the fact that I am very active on social media. I like to engage my readers. Back when I first started, my first book was published in '98. And I had a website, which was like, wow, you're cutting edge, Jim. You have a website. Yeah. And I remember when Facebook first came out, I thought, well, this is interesting. Maybe I could get in contact with my readership this way. And I contacted my publisher. And I said, hey, there's this new thing called Facebook. I'm a little leery about whether I should be on it or not, but I'm going to give it a try. Do you have any pointers? And their pointer to me was, that's stupid. Don't do that. Facebook is it's a flash in the pan. Ignore that. Then 5 years later, like, Jim, have you heard of Facebook?
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. I mean, even reading your writing, you're visionary in that way. I mean, that you're pushing the envelope.
Well, I think one of the reasons why I've been lucky enough to see a steady progression in my sales is that I do have what I believe is a close relationship with my readers. Oftentimes I will on Facebook or on Twitter, I'll pose a question. Here's 3 titles for this next book. You vote and tell me what it needs to be. Yeah. And I think that engagement has helped garner some more sales, and people, and word of mouth spreads. Word of mouth helps.
Oh yeah, social media like us in radio is invaluable. Because we get a lot of material from social media. What people want to hear, and it helps a ton. So, yeah, I hear you. It's a great marketing tool. And it's nice to talk to people.
You're out there in person, too, quite a bit. I know that's something you really take pride in. You interact with people in all different size groups. When I look at the press release, for the book, and there's already a really long list of appearances that you're making. And, you're a very personable guy, and I know you're very willing to share advice on writing. When I've talked to you before on the radio, you've offered me advice. We've talked about, because I still haven't written fiction. I'm still a nonfiction author. I've written some fiction in short form, but you were actually very encouraging, and it's on hold right now because we're dealing with some other things, but my wife and I are working on a novel right now, and I have to say a significant part of finally biting the bullet and going ahead with it and putting the time and effort into it was encouragement from you a few years ago. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I appreciate that I'm able to sort of lure you to the dark side.
Yes, in a very, very positive manner. Hey, let's get to we can't call it because you're not Arthur Miller. Let's get to Crucible and just tell us the origin of that tale. And, I kind of gave the party line version of it in the intro, but love to hear just how it came about and a short description of it from your perspective.
Well, I've always got my antenna up. I'm always looking for those tidbits that might become the seeds for a story. Either I'm looking for a bit of history that ends in a mystery, ends in a question mark, something I can solve within the pages of a novel, or I'm looking for that science that makes me go, what if? Where's that headed? How's it going to challenge us? And so, I've got this idea box, and it is literally just one box. It's one of those cardboard file boxes you probably see all over the place. And I like to keep it to one box because I'm always fearful that one box will become two, then two will become four. And it's James Rollins on Hoarders. We don't want that. So I try to keep it to one box if I can. But what kept adding to that box was all the stuff that was going on with artificial intelligence. It was rapidly changing. It was rapidly becoming more and more intertwined in people's lives. That was interesting, but I didn't know the handle for how to get into that story.
Yeah.
So then I was watching on National Geographic a special about the Malleus Maleficarum. I think you pronounced that better than I did. This witch hunter's Bible. And I was fascinated by the history of that. And I did more research into the persecution of witches. And that was fascinating. I discovered that there actually is a Catholic patron saint of witches, Saint Columba. She was a witch during the 9th century who, according to legend, met the Spirit of Christ on the road to Rome. Christ said, "You must convert to Christianity to save your soul." She said, "Of course I'll do that," and she did, but she kept on being a witch.
Oh, well, that's a happy medium right there.
So she was eventually martyred for her Christendom, but she kept, at this point, she became the patron saint of witches, not against witches. She was a patron saint in favor of witches, which I just find that dichotomy really interesting. So that was in the box, and I had to realize, hey, maybe there's a way of connecting these two together, because pretty much when it comes to, I used in my book a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, very well known, basically that if any sufficiently advanced technology will eventually look like magic.
Right.
And artificial, I've got my iPhone in my pocket. We're talking on Skype. I know diddly squat how any of this works. To me, it is magic. I don't know how in my pocket I've got Siri, this personal, person that can communicate to me. I can talk on Skype. I can go on the internet. I can have 1,000 books on it. It seems pretty magical in and of itself. So I'm going to do some more research into this. Yeah. So I started calling these different AI researchers just to find out, what was going on in the area, because I like my science to be as current as possible. Mm-hmm. Because when you write a book, there's a lag time between when I finish a book and when it gets published. Yeah, so if my science is already fairly behind the curve by the time the book comes out, it doesn't work very well. So I always like to call a scientist directly and communicate with them, which surprisingly they talk to me. And I'll say, hey, look over your shoulder and tell me what's on your lab table right now. What are you working on today? Because I need that immediacy so that when the book comes out, it still feels current.
Yeah.
But in talking to all these different AI researchers, I also asked them all one question. When do you think the moment's going to occur when a computer is as intelligent as us and is self-aware? This is what's known as an artificial general intelligence. When do you think we're going to get to this point of time? And of the 24 researchers that I eventually twisted their arm to talk to me, the general consensus was between 5 years and 15 years from now, we'll see that threshold be crossed.
Gosh, that's almost scary, though, James. Think about it. It's the rise of Skynet almost.
But I'm going to scare you more. So yes, 5 to 15 years seems like it could be in our lifetime. But 2 of the 24 told me, I think we've already crossed that threshold.
Oh my
boy!
And they offered me proof why. They showed me evidence that from what was going on in the marketplace, what was going on in technical field, that somebody out there already is crossed that threshold, and there are some indications from what's going on that they're preparing for the release of this information. So upon learning that, I figured I better write this book now.
Yeah.
Before that is announced.
That
was my impetus to write this book.
But how does that make you feel, James, as a human being, knowing that, God, these things, they could be free-thinking, sentient, almost humanoid things, and really, if they can learn. See, that's the thing. I was talking to a researcher about artificial intelligence, and one thing he's told me, he says we might have one robot on the table, but it can program 1,000 other instantaneously. So when it learns something, it can just spread it, and that's scary. That's almost scary. There's no learning curve anymore. One learns it, they all learn it.
And it's very difficult to control. When it comes to AI, my personal opinion doesn't matter because I think that in our lifetimes we're going to see, if not this decade, we're going to see this happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every country and corporation is wildly pursuing this tech. They're rushing to be the first one to cross that goal line. And the reason why is, as I mentioned in the book, Vladimir Putin had admitted a short time ago, whoever controls this technology will control the world.
Yeah.
But because they're so reckless in this rush, there's now a growing concern among industry leaders and heads of countries, and with good reason. Stephen Hawking expressed his belief that the creation of this first true self-aware AI would be the worst event in human history. Elon Musk said it will lead to World War III.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I, of course, being the terrified individual I am at this point, ask these researchers, well, what can we do to try to stop this from happening? Can we pass laws? Can we restrict the development? Should we? And they said no. There was a big symposium recently where they had major heads of different countries, and they had the head of Facebook and Google and all these other AI researchers. And the consensus was there's no law or regulation that's going to stop this from happening. Because some secret lab in some secret corner of the world is still going to work on this because the prize is so valuable.
Yeah.
Someone will still pursue it. So what I was getting, their best hope says is that because we're not going to have much choice if this is happening, maybe instead of just pursuing the goal of creating the first AI, maybe we need to start thinking about walking the harder and unfortunately more expensive path to create the first friendly AI. One that's sympathetic and empathetic to humankind, that's something that could be possibly our avatar if a malignant and dangerous AI should ever arise. To them, that's our best hope.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's only a small fraction of AI researchers that are actually pursuing a friendly AI. Everybody else is just looking for that general AI. So hopefully, one of the cautionary tales of Crucible is demonstrating why we need a friendly AI.
Mm-hmm.
We need a bumblebee.
Yeah, exactly.
But interesting I like the excuse me one sec, Joel.
Oh, not
the,
a problem.
the notion of positive, friendly, sympathetic, empathetic AI to protect us in essence from ourselves, because it's not like these things would have built themselves. Once they're built, they'll build themselves. But I mean, it takes us to build them. So we're in essence asking to be saved from ourselves. And my goodness, isn't that a significant portion of the history of humankind? We want to be saved from ourselves. Stop me before I kill again. That kind of thing.
Well, what's scary to me, though, is every great new technology, what do we try to do? One of the first things we do, we weaponize it.
Exactly.
And monetize.
Yep.
There was what's concerning to me also is that we get close to this moment of this AI, this self-aware AI, is oftentimes it will act as a mirror of ourselves. Back a few years ago, there was a bot released on Facebook and Twitter with the instruction to learn to communicate well enough that you can pass as human.
Mm-hmm.
So it studied communication on Facebook, communication on Twitter, and eventually decided it was finally time to pretend to be a human. So when it began to communicate, it was extremely racist.
Oh my God!
I remember that. Oh yeah.
So, I think it's definitely important that we learn to raise this AI almost like a parent would raise a child. It's important, I think, that we in its infancy that we maybe shield it a little bit, that we teach it manners, teach it how to be sympathetic and
morality.
So novel, I asked a lot of these researchers, well, how do you make a friendly AI? What's the path to a friendly AI? And they gave me some of the research that's going on in different corners of the world, these labs that are trying to create a friendly AI and what they're doing. And that's something that's in the novel. You'll see Mara, who is the young scientist who has created Eve, this first AI, and you'll see through the course of the novel this transformation, evolution of Eve from this cold calculating AI into something that potentially is going to help save us. And I wasn't making those techniques up. Those were techniques I learned from talking to these researchers on how to tweak this AI in such a manner that it develops an empathetic soul.
Well, yeah, because the AI might wake up one day or think to itself, I don't need humans anymore.
And not just that, what's really scary about AI is that we're talking about a synthetic intelligence, one that can theoretically be immortal.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is self-aware and it is intelligent, any self-aware intelligent creature, it's going to have the same basic human drives that we have, which is to survive, to eat. But in case of this case, basically, instead of AIs don't eat, but what they have to do is acquire resources, power, ability to multiply itself. And it's going to look at us and say, are we a threat?
Yeah.
Are we going to be a threat to its survival? Are we going to be a threat to its acquisition, ability to acquire resources? And it's just not going to look at us now. Because it's going to be a synthetic entity that can survive for centuries, if not millennia, if not being immortal, it's going to look centuries and millennia down the line for threats. Yeah. It's going to go, well, yes, these humans seem okay and not much of a threat to me now, but maybe a century now, millennium now, I'm a little worried. So I'm going to start setting in place things that if I have to battle these humans, I'm going to win.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to be playing the longest game that anybody's ever played.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to set us up with the best odds to win. And that's absolutely. We have to run to break, though. Wow, did this half hour run by really quick? We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. More James Rollins right after this.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So Daddy's little girl thinks she's going to prom tonight with some punk who calls himself Snake.
Yeah, they grow up so fast.
Well, not if I can help it, they don't.
Okay, here's what you do. When that kid shows up, Dad's going to be doing a few chores around the house.
Huh?
It doesn't matter the chore. What's important is that it requires the use of a 60cc gas-powered chainsaw and possibly a mask.
I think it's showtime.
He's here. Dad, I want you to meet...
All right, let her rip.
What's that, honey? Hi, Snake. Great to meet you. But wait, where are you going?
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson.
Tonight we're talking with James Rollins about Crucible, his newest novel. Now, James is #1 bestseller, New York Times bestseller, and he does not disappoint in this novel. I mean, he just brings it out. We were talking about AI this last segment. It scares the hell out of me, AI. I'll just be honest. It freaks me out a little bit because, next thing you know, okay, I'm really afraid of the Terminator. All right, that's really where it's at.
Well, when I was writing this novel, I was trying to be real conscious of not stepping on James Cameron's toes. Yeah. Bringing up Skynet. I wanted to ground the story on where AI is right now. Yeah. Nothing in this book that I arise isn't based on either research going on right now or research that is just at the cusp.
Yeah.
Like I said, just on somebody's work table. At the end of my book, I have a what's true and what's not section where I pull aside the curtain and I will show you exactly where all this information has come from.
Very cool. Very cool. So at the end, you have that, basically this is what's going on. This is the true stuff that you read about. And this is the stuff that I put in there as fiction to make the story better. And maybe it'll help some of the readers not be so scared at the end going, oh my God, is that real? Is this really going to happen? But one thing I noticed, because it's so intricate, your stories are really weaved very tight. Do you ever get writer's block, though? I mean, with all that information, do you ever just stumble for a minute?
Actually, oddly enough, no. I generally do 2 books a year, so I coyly usually say, I don't have time for writer's block. I've got deadline after deadline. But usually I do about 90 days of research prior to starting a novel. And that's where I'm looking at the history, I'm looking for the science, I'm trying to find it, is there a thread that will connect these two well enough that I can build a story from? I'll begin doing a rough outline of the story at that point. I don't do a great outline. I know the beginning, I know the end, I know a few stopping points in between, but I don't know how A connects to B connects to C. To me, the joy of writing is just trying to find that path. But it's during that time where I will oftentimes go, no, there's not a story here, and I can toss those bits aside. So I don't have time for writer's block. Because once I know there's a story there, and I know the gist within those 90 days, now I'm ready to go. The story's ready to go.
How many hours a day do you write, though? I mean, you must write a lot of hours a day.
People think that, but no, actually. Back when I wish I was more productive, to be honest with you. Back when I had my veterinary clinic, I was just writing in cracks in time. I was writing during my lunch hour. I was writing after work or before work. I made a personal goal of mine that I had to write 3 pages a day, but then I kept qualifying it. 3 double-spaced pages a day, which is really about a page and a half. And not every day, about 5 out of 7 days of the week. That's what I'm going to do. But I found that. And I think any writer has to come to that moment of finding how writing works in their life. And to me, that's what it was. I can write 3 double-spaced pages a day, 5 out of 7 days of the week. And I thought if I ever get rid of my day job, being a veterinarian, I'll be much more productive. And I am. I write 5 double-spaced pages a day. That is it. I usually hit a wall about then. I'm a little bit of a slow writer. It takes about an hour for me to write 1 double-spaced page. So 5 pages is about 5 hours of new writing. And by that point, I'm pretty much getting a little burnt out, and I will set it aside. And the rest of my writing day is usually involved with the business side of writing, or calling up some of those scientists and asking some questions about what I've just written and what I'm planning on writing. Or I do spend a significantly more time than I probably should on Facebook and Twitter. So
it's easy to do, though. I mean, it's like the black hole, the social media.
Oh, I've wasted so much time there.
If you had
it's also marketing.
Yeah, it is.
It is. But I can't say all of it's marketing.
Well, not all of anything is anything. You know what I mean? Everything's gray. Everything involved. We're humans. Hey, without giving away too much, just to kind of wrap up the AI thread, tell us a little bit more about how AI works in your story without going too far.
Well, I do create, and this is something I did enjoy doing, is there are chapters in Crucible that are written from the point of view of Eve, the AI, because I want to take my readers and put them into the shoes, so to speak, of this AI, and to see exactly how we can transform Eve. And so over the course of the novel, chapter by chapter, we see this transformation, this evolution of Eve. But also at the same time, being that it's a thriller, the villains happen to also get a copy of Eve, and they begin to corrupt her. So about midway through the novel, we see a divergent path between sort of dark mirror versions of each other, Dark Eve and Bright Eve, that eventually are going to come to a head at the end of the novel. So it's basically a cautionary tale about almost about parenthood, for lack of a better term, about how to raise a child right so they don't become a sociopath, versus the villains who they torture and abuse Eve in a very fragile state that she is at the point they acquire her, and she ends up very damaged and dangerous accordingly. So that's sort of who you're going to see throughout the course of this novel.
It's very Lovecraftian, though. You're writing. Lovecraft had to have been a big influence on you.
I like Lovecraft a lot.
I was gonna say because it's very similar in some aspects. Writing style. I love that. I mean that is just absolutely wonderful writing. And Twilight Zone. I also see a sprinkle of Twilight Zone in there as well.
And that's an extremely big compliment for you to say that. Thank you.
No, not a problem. It's true. It's very true.
I am
very well.
I always loved Night Gallery and Twilight.
Oh yeah.
And
all that.
Hey, I'm real interested then to sort of turn down another alley and to talk about. You do have a very interesting and I think very sophisticated take on the history of witchcraft, or not so much specifically the history of witchcraft per se, but the persecution of witchcraft. And kind of what are the sociological, because you really do get into that quite a bit, ramifications of that. And then you kind of tie all that into how women have been treated throughout history, but up to this very day with women scientists. And I see this all the time. I get that daily Nature newsletter. Sure. Man, every day they're talking about, lower pay, lower citations, just lower respect, all of that. How please tie all that together for us, and that probably will take up. Then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, right.
Well, definitely. When I was doing my research on the persecution of witches, this book deals with specifically the Spanish Inquisition, which was a major source of and torment of women and heretics during the about 3 centuries long. And Torquemada was the head of the Spanish Inquisition and was quite brutal. But over the passing of about 3 centuries, oddly enough, the Spanish Inquisition became a little more liberal. There was a gentleman who appears in the prologue to this novel called Alfonso de Salazar Frias, who became known as the witch's advocate because he came to the belief that most of these accusations of witchcraft were probably based on either false testimony from torture or delusions, but he advocated for basically stopping the witch burnings, and he was very successful at that. As a matter of fact, the Spanish Inquisition was one of the first organizations in Europe to outlaw the burning of witches.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. I would have thought it would have been the other way around because, you think about the Inquisition and how violent, that word brings.
It only took 300 years.
Yeah, that's all.
Many deaths in 300 years, but finally they learned their lesson.
Yeah, better late than never.
When I was traveling in Spain, I learned about one sect of the Spanish Inquisition. They call themselves the Crucibellum, or Latin for crucible, hence the title of my novel. Mm-hmm. This was sort of when the Spanish Inquisition became more liberal, they were sort of the right-wing version of the Spanish Inquisition. They didn't like this change of tact of the Spanish Inquisition, and they became sort of this crystallized hard kernel, going back to the ways of Torquemada. They still were following the dictates of this Malleus Maleficarum, this witch hunter's guide. Still continued in secret in different corners to terrorize heretics. Oddly enough, there are some people in Spain today that still believe the Crucibellum is still in existence, that there is a secret cabal in Spain that traces back to the Spanish Inquisition that is still in dark corners of Spain carrying out these murders to basically try to wipe out heretics and witches.
Wow. Did you find any evidence to that at all when you're doing your research?
I didn't find any evidence of that at all, but I thought that's something, if true, I can incorporate into the novel. So the main villains of this book is the Crucibellum, and in my novel, they are still around. And when they learn about Mara and her almost magical creation, this AI, they declare her a witch, and they go after her and her creation. And she managed to escape that initial attack. She's on the run. Everybody's after this AI football that's been fumbled, and that's the crux of the novel. But also, when it came to the persecution of women in the past, it was usually women that were questioning the natural order of the world. Mm-hmm. Either they were exploring sciences in their own way, they were looking at pagan herbology and history for healing, But the patriarchy manifested by the church didn't like that. And, of course, that meant the women had to be silenced.
Yeah.
And if you look at today, it's like obviously it's different, but that prejudice is still there in the sciences. There is some, for a woman to be in science and question the natural order, they're oftentimes dismissed. There's sexism, there's Me Too, there's lower pay. They are oftentimes delegated to the second place in a research paper article. They are oftentimes male colleagues take their research. One example is Donna Strickland, Dr. Donald Strickland from Canada. She won the Nobel Prize for Physics this year. She was only the third woman in 117 years to be given that award.
Wow.
So clearly something going on here that yes, in the past we were persecuting women that dared to question the natural order. And yes, we're not burning them at the stake, but we're definitely not. There is still definitely some prejudice involved right now. That is sort of the tie from the past to the present in this novel, is that here you have Mara, this brilliant AI researcher who's developed this new technology that looks magical, and she's going to be punished for it.
And what better way to discredit her than calling her a witch?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Burn the witch! Burn the witch!
Yeah.
How do we, on a serious note, how do we address that? How you're a scientist as well as a writer. You've been in that world. How do we address that? Is it worse in the scientific world than in other corners of society, or is it just kind of the same?
Well, I think it varies in different corners, but the sciences have always been, especially the STEM sciences, have often been, they're very male dominated. And I think one way to get better pay, to get better respect, is to shine a light in these dark corners. A lot of times what happens in the shadows stays in the shadows. If you go back to the Spanish Inquisition, for the first century, they were burning witches, but eventually, as more and more attention was drawn to this, we see the Spanish Inquisition outlawing the burning of witches. So I think, light is a great purification tool. And I think if we shine enough light onto this matter, and I believe Crucible is one way to do that, is just, having this be a way of not only encouraging maybe girls to go into the STEM sciences, but to shine a light on the fact that, their work needs to be respected for, no matter whether it's a guy or a girl guy or a man who somewhere. No matter what the gender.
One of those genders.
Yeah.
One of those damn genders.
Well, Crucible is not only a great science fiction tale, but it's also it's social commentary. On what's going on.
My main goal when I write my novels is to create a roller coaster ride. I want to entertain. I want you to sweat. I want you to turn pages late into the night. But ultimately, I hope when you close the book that you're left a little bit something to think about. At the very beginning of this novel, Monk, who's got a prosthetic hand, he's a member of Sigma Force, is flipping a coin in the air. And he's able to call because of the sensitivity of his prosthetic, whether it's land on heads or tails. And that's basically the one of the themes of this novel is the two sides of a coin. We have bright Eve and dark Eve. We've got the Crucibellum, this sixth sect of the Spanish Inquisition that's still in existence, that's using the Bible as a reason for attacking and subjugating women. Whereas Mara also comes from a very religious background. She names her creation Eve. She raises Eve in a virtual world to keep her confined while she's developing, and that it's basically mimicked after the Garden of Eden. Eventually, Mara gives Eve her version of Adam, which I'm not going to tell you what that is. You'll have to read the book. So again, I like showing those two sides of the coin that's flipping in the air throughout this novel. That there's, a lot of my novels deal with the dichotomy between religion and science. Right now, there's not just a line in the sand between religion and science. It's a deep trench.
Yeah.
And my goal with these books is to look for that commonality. to realize that there is common ground between these two sides, between science and religion. And so again, that's one of the goals of this novel is to help hopefully blur that line a little bit more.
Well, your characters are really fleshed out and very vivid. When you're writing, is there a certain point where they almost just take over and write themselves?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why I don't want to outline in great detail.
Mm-hmm.
I know the few tent poles that are going to hold up this novel, but if I've created a character well enough, they should drive your story.
Mm-hmm.
I oftentimes, you mentioned before, do I have writer's block? The closest it's come where I've got writer's block is when I've tried to force a character to do something that fundamentally I know in my heart they would never do.
Gotcha.
That the motivation isn't there, that it feels false that I'm making them do this just because I need the plot for them to do that. They really wouldn't do that. And then I've got to sort of go back, retreat a little bit, and rethink exactly how I want to move forward with this that makes sense from the character's point of view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is fascinating, though. I'm always fascinated of the nuts and bolts of writing. How those characters take over, how the writer unfolds that story. It is really, we've had a lot of authors on this show that say it's like they take on a life of their own, and you're as shocked as that writer is as shocked as everyone else when the story unfolds itself.
Yeah, this Crucible is the 14th book in the Sigma series, and we've been following the main character of Sigma Force is Commander Gray Pierce. And one of the greatest joys of writing a series is that you have the elbow room, to truly show the arc of a character's life across the breadth of the books. Now, I structure each book so that you don't have to read my series in any particular order. Matter of fact, I don't think anybody's read the books in the order I've written them. I try to keep each novel self-contained, and even Crucible is a perfectly fine place to jump into the series. But that said, Commander Gray Pierce has not been a static character. He started as a new recruit into Sigma Force. Over the years, we've seen Gray struggle with his personal life and his professional life. He's had to deal with parents in the throes of Alzheimer's. He's dealt with tragic losses, with loved one and loss, with disabilities, betrayals.
Mm-hmm.
So while Gray and Gray and company have to save the world, they also have lives at homes that weigh them down. And I think that's what makes Gray and the other members of Sigma relatable, is we all are struggling to balance that professional responsibility with personal obligations. And to see that battle going on with Gray and his team, I think makes them all the more real. It does for me.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, it's like a privilege to be able to have that much space. You can get that granular with that character instead of having to compress their entire life into a single book, for example. So yeah, I absolutely can see the advantage of that and the freedom that comes with that. We are rampaging through time. This is just absolutely an amazing and quick and speedy and really enjoyable interview. I know, I have heard, a little bird told me that you, somewhat recently anyway, moved into a haunted house.
A haunted house, you say? That's right up our alley.
How appropriate.
Yes.
I just moved into this new place in Lake Tahoe. It was built in 1936. It was and the little street that I'm on is all isolated. There's only maybe 10 houses on the street. This was the first house built on the street. And the street is in the shadow of Cave Rock. If you know Lake Tahoe, you'll know what Cave Rock is. And Cave Rock is a sacred Indian burial ground. And matter of fact, I was doing some work on my property, and I actually had to have archaeologists come by to make sure there were no Indian remains on my property before I could do this work. Now, upon moving into this property, I had sort of a little weird feeling, the shiver at the hairs that nape of your neck type of thing, and I'm thinking this feels weird. And so I was talking to my realtor at one point. It was not related to ghosts or anything. Just I can't remember what I was talking to her about, but she volunteered out of the blue, says, "So have you seen the ghost yet?"
That's not the first thing you usually hear from a realtor.
No, not normally.
I was like, "What are you talking about?" I have been getting this weird feeling. It says, "Yeah, the owner before the owner that you bought the property from had a feng shui expert come through the house and do a sort of a sensing of your home, and came to the conclusion that your house is indeed haunted by a ghost." I go, "Really?" says, yes, it's the ghost of a raccoon.
A little bandit.
Yeah.
That is
veterinarian is very appropriate that if I'm going to get a house, I'm get a house haunted by a raccoon. So it makes sense.
How do you feel though, James, about the paranormal? Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in that kind of stuff?
I do believe that there is an energy essence that persists after we're gone. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that. I've had some weird encounters that make me believe that. And even though I'm a scientist, I'm a scientist enough to know, I've studied quantum energies. There's absolutely no reason why this quantum signature that is ourselves cannot survive after the dissipation of our bodily form.
Mm-hmm.
That's
absolute agreement.
We agree with that, and there's an increasing number, interestingly, surprisingly, of neuroscientists who believe that as well. That that it may not be that consciousness arises from the physical structure of our brains, but the other way around. That consciousness has created the physical, and that's quite a reversal for scientists, especially in that very specific field. And some claim to have some at least form of evidence of the consciousness persisting after death. I'm not so sure, I agree that it counts as evidence, but it certainly makes sense. And that's very interesting that to hear you say that with the scientific background, but again, also with the imagination. And before I forget, I'd love to hear any additional thoughts you have on that, but the structure of your book, and when you're talking about the light and the dark and the kind of the yin and the yang and all, that actually harkens back to the beginning of our discussion. That's kind of your brain, right? You had the scientific side, you had a very objective side, you were successful in that area, but then you always had this imaginative side. They ended up, at first, earlier in your adult life, the veterinarian was on top, and now the writer is. So it's interesting that we are seeing, I believe in Greek, it's called a synecdoche of your own structure, your own life, your own brain is reflected in your books.
That is very cool. I never thought of it that way, but to think about. Yeah, that's intriguing.
Yeah. No.
You can have that for free. Back to the paranormal. So you've had some experiences. Give us an example, please.
Well, when I was I was probably maybe in third grade. I was living in Canada at the time, and to this day, I was up late at night. I was going to the bathroom as a kid is, and I walked past the door to the basement, and I saw a gentleman wearing a 3-pronged hat at the bottom of the stairs. Nothing scary happened. He looked at me. I looked at him. I went back to bed and thought, that had to be a ghost.
Yeah, that was always strange encounter.
Unless you got a Revolutionary War soldier in your basement.
I don't know. I'll have to ask my parents. Maybe they did lock somebody up. Maybe they have a whole secret side that they never revealed to me. But
there's another book. You're welcome.
But I've also had many other experiences in regards to one of the sad parts of being a veterinarian is you have to euthanize.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the final kindness we can give to our pets is to let them have a peaceful end rather than a suffering end. Mm. And I firmly believe that it might not be a bad idea that we use that for humans. But I've had some moments during that passage that again has raised the hairs on the back of my neck.
Yeah, I would imagine. Animals love us. Dogs, cats, they all love us, and they're part of the family. And so they have a deep bond with us. And I would imagine you have seen and experienced some strange and wonderful things.
Oh, yeah.
Doing that. So I have a aging Chihuahua that I am, unfortunately, we're leaning towards euthanasia because of just his arthritis and everything else. It's a hard decision. It's a very hard decision.
Really hard.
When do you know when to let go? For the betterment of them.
Sometimes the pet will tell you that, and I always tell people there's 2 ways your pet's going to tell you it's time to go. Either they're going to stop eating, and that indicates that the pain is and discomfort is bad enough that they've forsaken survival. They've stopped eating, or the fact that if your pet is so in pain and can't move that they're beginning to have accidents, they're beginning to lose control of their bowels or their urine. Once a dog is potty trained, they are really. It takes a lot to make them lose control. So if that's happening, then it's time maybe to say enough's enough. You've given me X number of years of love and companionship. My final act as your owner and companion is to say, I'm going to let you go.
That's a hard call. It really is. It's been harder than I was even anticipating. But anyhow, James, thank you so much for coming on the show. The book is Crucible, drops January 22nd. Make sure to pre-order it right now. You can pre-order on Amazon, and it will be available at Barnes & Noble, all the bookstores. So make sure you check it out. James Rollins, Crucible. And until next time, everyone, take care of each other, love each other, and make sure you read this book. After Hours AM is a production of Midwest Radio Productions. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And please visit www.americas-most-haunted.com.